It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the movies of April 28th, 1995. All 9 of them. We have 9 movies to look at today, so let's just get right on into it because we're going to be here for a while. And let's start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and arguably, some might say, the best release of the weekend. Okay, I'm saying it's the best release of the weekend. It's Ice Cube starring in the movie Friday with Chris Tucker. I mean, talk about Ice Cube's magnum opus. This is probably the best thing he's ever done as an actor. And I like Ice Cube as an actor. I think he's also a great musician, too. But this really is the best movie he's ever made. And really, it's hard to top what he's done before. And this is just such a brilliantly made film. I mean, in a way, it's kind of like the black equivalent of Clerks because you're following these two characters over the course of a day. And they go through all these different situations, like all these different places they go to, all these different people they encounter. It feels very much like that. And you just love the chemistry that between Cube and Tucker as Craig and Smokey. They're just so fun to watch, and they just have a lot of great dialogue, a lot of great humor, just a lot of great everything in this movie. This is a great film that I just keep going back to every single time. I mean, it's just a brilliantly made film, and it's a movie that not only is very funny, but it also plays with your expectations, and it has some of my favorite scenes in movies, like one of my favorite scenes in movie towards the end of the movie. There's this thing where Craig, Ice Cube's character, is going to go up against the bully of the movie, which is of course Debo, and he's got a gun, and he was talking, and they've been building this up until about starting at the, I want to say halfway through the movie. He has this gun, and his dad John Witherspoon, who's great in the film as well, gives him a speech about how he's about if he's a man with that gun, or if he said, and Craig says, I'm a man without it. And so there's this point where you think that that Craig is going to shoot Debo, because Debo's talking shit to him, and then all of a sudden it cuts to Craig putting the gun up, and then you see this white girl, the screen goes white, like you think that okay, he shot him, but then it goes back to flashbacks to that dialogue in the beginning of in that scene I was talking about, and all these different things that took place before then, and it makes you think it's actually what would have happened if he had actually done it, and then it cuts back to him Debo talking smack to Craig again, and he just fights him at the end of it. Like, I like that. I like that they actually played with your expectations. They make you think that it's going to be something completely different and something that we've seen done before, but it's not like that. And that's what I think is what makes this movie so special. It plays with your expectations. It doesn't give you what you think you're going to get. And I think that was actually what the point of the movie was when they were making the film. I think Ice Cube and the person that co-wrote this movie, DJ Pooh, said that they didn't like the portrayal of Hood in film because it was becoming more violent and menacing as these movies kept coming out. So they decided to make a movie that counteracts that by doing something that draws more on personal experiences while crafting the characters and plot points, and I guess maybe doing it in a lighter sense because it definitely shows on screen. And like I said, the acting in here is great. Ice Cube and Chris Tucker are great together. You got a cast that also includes Neil Long, Tiny Lister, Regina King, Anna Maria Horsford, Bernie Mac. Of course, John Witherspoon is always going to be great if you put him in something really good, he'll usually deliver something great to the movie. It's just a really good film, man. I go back to this movie every single time. I get a lot of laughs out of it. It's just such a brilliant film. I love it so much. It's easily the best movie Ice Cube has ever made. And it's a great film. I can't recommend it enough. If you haven't seen Friday, I highly recommend checking it out. You will not be disappointed by it. So, that's Friday. Let's move on to the next movie, and that is John Carpenter's second film of 1995. 2 films over the course of 2 months, and that is the remake of Village of the Damned. So like I said, this is the second film of the last 2 months that John Carpenter directed, which the other one was In the Mouth of Madness, which was a far superior movie than this film was easily. But this movie is mostly notable because it was the last publicly released film that Christopher Reeve starred in before he had his infamous horse accident that made him paralyzed for the rest of his life. That actually happened not but a few weeks after this movie came out. And as far as the movie itself goes, it's definitely not that great. I mean, the original version, which was adapted from the book, which came out in 1960, the movie came out in 1960, the book came out 3 years after that, was a much better film. This movie just feels off. I mean, John Carpenter's doing the best he can in terms of direction, but the script overall just really isn't working very well. It's a film that just does not have a good script to work with. It has a great cast to work with, though. Christopher Reeve, like I said, Linda Kozlowski from Crocodile Dundee, Kirstie Alley, Michael Pare, Mark Hamill, Meredith Salinger. Just a really good cast here, but the script is just not inventive whatsoever. And I'm sorry, these kids are not that threatening. Like, that blonde hair, it works back in the 1960 film, but here, it's just hard to take this seriously whatsoever. It gets way too ridiculous for its own good. It's a film that has a lot of promise to it, but it just does not deliver on any of it whatsoever. It's a shame, too, because John Carpenter is doing the best he can with this, and you could definitely tell from the direction point. The writing point, however, it's a huge misfire on so many levels. It's no surprise why this one kind of came and went, so. But hey, at least he made one great film in '95 with In the Mouth of Madness, but, so that's Village of the Damned. Let's move on to the next movie we have, and that is Chuck Norris's Top Dog. It's K9. I mean, it's K9. It's kind of like Turner. I don't even want to say. Now, Turner and Hooch was pretty much the same thing, too, but this is just K9 and Turner and Hooch, except replace Jim Belushi and Tom Hanks with Chuck Norris. And they say that this movie didn't do well because the timing of the movie. This actually came out 9 days after the infamous Oklahoma City bombing, and they said that because the movie was about terrorism and all that, that's why the movie didn't succeed at the box office. Well, the movie didn't succeed at the box office because we've seen this movie done over and over again. And yeah, Chuck Norris was a popular star with Walker, Texas Ranger, and this actually turned out to be his last film in theaters before he shifted straight to direct-to-video movies, but this movie would have failed regardless. I mean, this is a dull movie that's not really funny whatsoever. Chuck Norris is just trying way too hard in this. Like, the things that make Chuck Norris so memorable, like the stuff you see from the Walker clips that used to be on Conan O'Brien all the time, and even something as ridiculous as Sidekicks, those are things that are so bad they're funny at the same time. This is just something that's so bad that it's nothing. I mean, like I said, we've seen this done a whole lot better in stuff like K9 and Turner and Hooch, but this just doesn't work at all. It's a really lackluster movie that's not really that clever, not really that smart. It doesn't really show what we like about Chuck Norris, but it's just not a fun movie at all. It's a really dull movie, and it's just like this is the last thing that people saw on the big screen with Chuck Norris in it before he eventually came back with the cameo in The Expendables 2, and I think that's the last movie he ever did in theaters at that point. But this movie didn't fail because of the Oklahoma City bombing. It probably would have been an excuse, maybe, but no, this movie was going to fail regardless. This was not a good movie at all, and you could definitely see why right from the get-go. I mean, just terrible movie on so many levels, so. Anyway, that is Top Dog. Let's move on to the next movie, and that is Destiny Turns on the Radio. So here's one of those movies I never really heard about until I saw it on like a compilation of like movie trailer TV spots back from this year 1995, and for my first glance at it, I thought this was a spin-off of the movie of the character that Quentin Tarantino played in Pulp Fiction. I mean, he's literally all over that commercial as you see, but no, this is something completely different, and it's definitely nothing that he did with the script or the direction, because you could probably tell from that trailer that this did not leave a huge lasting impact. I couldn't even find a trailer for that, honestly, when I looked on there for the first time. And quite frankly, that commercial I saw did not make me want to see this movie, despite all the people that they have in here. I mean, Dylan McDermott, Nancy Travis, James LaGrosse, James Belushi, David Cross, Bobcat Goldthwait, Tarantino. There's nothing about this that looks interesting whatsoever. It just feels like a movie that just has way too much going on. It doesn't really have a good idea of what the point is that it's going to be at the end of it. And it just doesn't look like a good movie. I haven't seen it, so I can't really delve into it too much more, but I have no real interest to see it after watching that trailer. But it came out that weekend. It was the fourth highest grossing of the new releases, so it's right in the middle, so that should tell you something. But actually, I think we can run through these next couple really quick, because I don't think I've seen any one of these movies. So that was Destiny Turns on the Radio. Let's move on to that next movie that we have here, and that is A Pyromaniac's Love Story. Kind of like with the last movie, this feels like something that This one feels more like a watered down Woody Allen movie. Like this was a script that Woody Allen would have done and probably would have made it a whole lot better. But no, somebody watched Woody Allen movies and said, I could do this easily, and turns out he really can't, because nothing about that trailer was interesting whatsoever. It's one of those trailers where everybody just has to keep talking to keep you invested in what's going on. I feel like that's kind of what the movie is. Like, people have to just say stuff, and say something that's funny, or say something that's interesting to keep you invested in what's going on, and just like the last movie, that trailer did not do that any favors. I don't think anybody in this movie really was happy with what they were doing. I don't think they were given anything funny to do. I don't think anything interesting happens in this movie. Like I said, it feels like a watered-down version of a Woody Allen movie. And like I said, Woody Allen probably could have made this better, but it definitely doesn't feel like anything that could be very interesting or funny. I hadn't even heard about it until this point, so that should probably tell you something about it. So, yeah, it definitely does not look like something I'm interested in. So, that's a Pyromaniac's love story. Let's move on to the next movie that we have here, and that is Steven Soderbergh's The Underneath with Peter Gallagher. Second movie in 2 weeks where Peter Gallagher spends time in the movie in a hospital bed. Probably not for a good reason, but yeah, this movie didn't look interesting either. And Steven Soderbergh is usually a terrific director. I feel like this was kind of a little bit of a downward trend for him, because I'm looking at his filmography up to this point. Between King of the Hill and Out of Sight, there's a couple of movies there that I don't think I've ever heard of. I don't think they're not really that good. And I haven't seen this movie, but I do not think that this movie got any good favors either. I mean, it doesn't look like it's a bad movie per se. It just feels like a movie that it just doesn't know what exactly it wants to do. Like, it doesn't feel like it fits into the style of what we expect to see from Steven Soderbergh as a filmmaker, because he can usually tackle most genres and do a pretty good job with it. We see it later on in his career, but I don't know. This movie feels like he's just trying to make a mainstream movie. This is a remake of a 1949 original movie of the same name, and yeah, I just don't think it's anything worth watching. Like, I never even knew about it until I looked at the trailer for this, and even that trailer, I saw it, and I was just kind of like, nothing about this looks interesting whatsoever. So, I mean, that's just my thinking on it. So yeah, that's The Underneath. So, on to the next movie we have here, and that is Picture Bride. Another movie I really do not know a whole lot about. So, the plot of it is you're following this woman who arrives in Hawaii as a picture bride at the turn of the century for a man she has never met before. The story is based on the historic practice due to U.S. anti-miscegenation laws. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Miscegenation. Miscegenation. I think it's miscegenation. I don't know if I'm saying that wrong. I'm just reading what it says off of here. Due to these laws of Japanese immigrant laborers in the United States using long-distance matchmakers to find in their homelands to find wives. So that's literally everything I know about this movie. I've never even heard of this movie. I don't know anything about it. Like I said, as you can probably tell, I haven't seen it, so I can't really talk about it. But unfortunately, I couldn't even find a really good trailer for it. All I could find was just the movie itself. It's one of those ones where there's probably a trailer out there, but I'm just not finding it easily, so I can't really judge it from that one clip there. I mean, that's just a little clip from the movie, and I don't know. Like, I really don't have anything more to add to this one. I wish I could add something to it, but I've got nothing, so let's move on to the next movie, and that is a Martin Scorsese production, Search and Destroy. So this is a movie that's based off of a stage play, which actually Griffin Dunne, who stars in the same role here, played on the stage production. The premise is that this guy is a complete failure. He runs a successful business into debt. His marriage is falling apart. He owes the IRS $147,000 in back taxes. He doesn't have much going for him, but he has read Daniel Strong, a best-selling self-help novel from the popular TV guru played by Dennis Hopper. Now he wants to turn that into a motion picture. To do that, Martin needs the rights and the revenue. Given his grating personality and terrible track record, it won't be easy to get hold of either. He sets out to meet this doctor, but ends up sleeping with his screenwriter assistant Maria, played by Elena Douglas, who's destined and determined to make a movie. They meet in New York. They get involved with this wealthy businessman, played by Christopher Walken, with his quirky tendencies and a repressed desire to live dangerously. If they aren't careful, this daring duo may not come out of this deal alive. And again, just reading it off of there because I haven't seen the movie, but unlike that, this definitely shows some promise to it, mostly because it looks like Christopher Walken doing whatever Christopher Walken wants to do. Just the way he's holding that gun up every time he says, "Do you have a gun on you?" Like, that's kind of funny, and maybe this could be something that's kind of interesting. You see the big names in the cast: Griffin Dunn, Dennis Hopper, Christopher Walken, John Turturro, Ethan Hawke, Rosanna Arquette, Robert Knepper, Elena Douglas, Martin Scorsese. Dan Hedaya is also in this movie. So there is definitely something there to this movie from that trailer alone, and maybe that could lead to something. But I haven't seen it, so I can't really say too much more about it. So let's move on to this last movie, and that is the documentary Moving the Mountain. Another documentary directed by Michael Apted. This is basically looking back to the Tiananmen Square protest of 1989. You're following several people who were part of that, and one of the guys who wrote the memoir based off of this, Li Lu, is a central figure in the film. The movie sets out to provide a comprehensive understanding of the events leading up to and following the Tiananmen Square protests. They have five of the student leaders who were part of that, several supporters of the movement, and a prominent descendant who led the Democracy Wall movement of 1978. Interviews with Wang Dan, number one of the government's most wanted list, and Wei Jingsheng are conducted in secret in Beijing. The film includes a set of archival footage from the Cultural Revolution, the Tiananmen Incident in 1976, the death of Mao Zedong in 1976, the Democracy Wall movement of 78, and the protest of 89. The footage was supplemented by dramatic recreations of key childhood events in the lives of Li Lu, from filmed in Taiwan, and of the escape routes of several leaders filmed in Hong Kong. So that's pretty much the gist of what this movie is. And like I said, I don't know anything about it, but it's a documentary about the events that led up to those protests in '89. That has that famous image of the guy standing in front of the tank, getting ready to come down the field, down the road, and that's like I said, that's pretty much all I know about this movie, and that's really, it could be interesting. Like that's an interesting story that you can definitely learn a lot about. So maybe this might be something that could be worth watching. Michael Apted usually does make some pretty good movies, whether they're scripted movies or documentaries. So this could definitely be something. But that's my first time ever hearing about this. So that's pretty much all I got for you on this one. It's Moving the Mountain. And so on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, and we jump into the summer movie season next time around with the first weekend of May 1995. We've got Meg Ryan and Kevin Kline in the romantic comedy French Kiss. We also have Panther, My Family, and Black is Black Gang. So 4 movies next time around, and it's welcoming after the last 2 weeks I've had to cover. So that's it for this episode. So thank you for watching, and as always, if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another episode. So thank you for watching, I'll see you next time, and until then, as always, take care.